Push. It's a gap between the two bottom plates for the OSB of the one wall to slide by. We ran a string line down the side here so that we can determine how straight the frame is. We're a quarter of an inch off at one point, and since we had a nice indoor place to work, we just drove a 2x4 underneath there to raise it up a quarter of an inch. That should make our plate nice and straight. So we've cut the contour of the fender, and now we're going to fill that up with lumber. So we'll always put some mastic or spray foam to keep air from moving around through that joint. And there is a long straight shot here. Just have to make sure that that's 1.5 inches deep. And when I do the lumber in, I always start one end first and close it like a pocket knife. It works easier. And now for the curved section, we'll just take some of these block scraps that we have left, and we'll mastic those and put them in. That'll all get closed up and nailed on both sides. Okay, we're filling in the gap between the fender and the panels, and Daniel's putting in a product called backer rod. You can pick that up at Home Depot or Lowe's. Comes in different diameters, so we use the bigger around that edge there, and now he's going to have to switch to either the medium or the small for the places where there's less gap. And that'll keep the spray foam from going through there, and then we'll mastic the edge to make sure that's perfectly water. We're air sealing the corners now. We're on a bead small bead right in the corner, all the way up. And we'll do the same thing at each vertical joint. We'll put a bead of caulk in that little bit of a crack we left there, about an 1/8 inch, and then we're going to wipe it off with a putty tool and force it into that crack. Okay, you can see now where I've applied the mastic, and then that's what it looks like after you've forced it into the crack. It doesn't do any good to leave any on the outside surface. Just work it in. Nice clean line, make it easier to paint or to finish later. I drilled some 1/2 inch holes up to about 16 inches where we put the hold down bracket. And now putting the foam can in there, counting to 5, and we'll blast it full and let it set for a minute, and then we'll top it off. Okay, we can see we got that gap where the connector was full of foam because it's gushing out now. We'll just wait till that dries and knock it off, and then you can sand it. Put a little putty there if you want. If you work on SIPs long enough, you will come into the situation where one of the connector splines is too tall, and the best tool for that is a reciprocating, or rather a multi-tool, but a recip saw. You can cut through the OSB on one side and trim that off, but the lumber always wants to be flush with the foam. Okay, we're going to go over installing the window bucks. We've started leaving these out of our packages, allowing the homeowner to buy the lumber locally and save a few dollars on the install. We can still provide it if you want, but we found this to be a good solution to keeping our price down. The window we're working on is, the rough opening is 48.5 inches. So we're going to add 3 and subtract a little bit just so it goes in there. That'll be for the top and the bottom of the opening. And okay, we're about ready to put the lumber in there, so we're going to put a bead of foam in the corners on the inside edge. We want to air seal this like every joint. It's pretty hard to get the foam to stay when you're spraying it up on something, so let's put a bead onto the board for the upper window buck before I install it. Okay, the 2 side ones will now be just the length of the rough opening. In this case, it's 18.5 inches. Okay, we have all the lumber around the window bucks. And now we're going to attach those about 6 inches on center. We use a 7/16 crown stapler with 1.5 staples. But you can use an 8-penny nailer, or you can use screws, or you can hand nail it. Okay, we've taped off all the vulnerable edges here. Got a little bit more work to do around the fenders. So we'll clean up that spray foam, caulk it one more time. And I taped up where the OSB joints are, both air sealing and water sealing of that area.